Good afternoon. Thank you for joining this information session for Cleveland Institute of Art. My name is Victoria and I'm the facilitator, which means I start and stop the presentation. Heather and Karen will be your presenters today. If you do miss some information, don't panic. It's being recorded and it will be available on oacac.org within a week. And then while you are in this session, even though you do not have microphone or video, you can communicate any questions through the Q&A feature. I'll come back on at the end with another slide and a little more information, but for now, I will turn it over to Heather and Karen, and that way you can learn about CIA. Thanks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. To get started, we just would like to start by introducing ourselves. So my name is Heather Golden, and I'm the Director of Career Services at the Cleveland Institute of Art.
And my name is Karen Wellman. I'm one of the admissions counselors at CIA. And so welcome to our presentation today.
Wonderful. So I'm going to share my screen now to go through this presentation with you all. I hope to make it a little interactive with some questions. So feel free to enter into the chat or the question and answer box when it comes time for participation. But looking forward to going through this with you today. So to get started, just this quick activity, take some time, type in the chat, what kind of art do you like to make? What are the kinds of mediums and materials that you tend to use? And then secondly, what are you thinking about majoring in when you go to college? It's not going to be something that you're held to, just kind of curious what you're thinking of. So take a few seconds for the folks who are here now to type some things into the chat. All right, so we definitely have some folks who like to work in watercolor and some folks who like to work in Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. Definitely we've got charcoal, ink, screen printing, jewelry, very cool. And folks who are looking to go into animation, illustration. We've got graphic design. All right, so we've got like a nice mix of folks who are looking at different majors and looking at different areas. And if you're watching this as a recording later, don't worry if your major wasn't part of that conversation. We'll share a little bit more about all of the majors that CIA has in the future slides. All right. So I mentioned to y'all when I first introduced myself that I'm the Director of Career Services. What does that even mean, right? So here's some reasons why when you go to college, you would interact with someone like myself. So one of the biggest things I do is I help students reach their career goals. So, you're coming to school wanting to be a professional artist, professional designer, and I'm going to help you with the tools in your toolbox to get you there. So these are just some of the things that a career services person would do to help you out. One of the common misconceptions is that career services is only for when you're a senior or after you've graduated, but that's actually not the case. I love working with students in their very first year, starting to think about these things. So building your network, attending the job fairs, these are the kinds of things you want to start doing right away, no matter where you end up going to school. So I'm going to show a quick video. This is a very fun video about what career services is to give you a general overview.
The Career Center offers a wide variety of services, including one-on-one career advising.
We'll have meetings to cover resume reviews, cover letters, interview tactics.
I owe a great debt to the career services here because they've definitely prepared me going into interviews with my resume and understanding what I need to do to be professional.
You get these resources that kind of get you in a side door to a lot of industries and jobs that you might not have just even known were out there before.
We've had students intern for NASA, the Cleveland Clinic, Nickelodeon, Museum of Natural History, Little Tykes, the list goes on and on.
It's the best way to gain real-world experience and find out what they actually like.
I do a lot of packaging design, mock-ups for cards. It's sort of like applying all the things that I've learned from CIA to an actual environment.
I couldn't do any of the things that I've been doing today without CIA and the animation program. All the practice and all the encouragement from the professors has definitely made me a much better artist now than I ever was beforehand.
Really just about any creative discipline that you could think of, to some extent or another, we have an appetite for that talent. 20% of our interns, we could say, are CIA students.
It's this bridge of art and production that makes a CIA student so valuable.
And we also coordinate fairs for students where we actually bring employers to campus.
We're always looking for somebody who's interested in creating and being creative with us.
We've had interns, but also full-time employees from CIA down at Procter & Gamble.
Creativity Works is a program that allows students to create opportunities to put together their own gallery show and have that experience on their resume.
I am absolutely thrilled that I've got to intern at the Sculpture Center. It has probably been one of the best things to ever happen to me.
For the past 2 years, 80% of our alums have found work in their field, starting their own studio practice, starting their own business, finding a part-time or full-time job in their field.
There's obviously the myth of the starving artist, but I can tell you from personal experience that there are a wide array of opportunities for success for our students.
Awesome. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea of what Career Services does. We hold events, we bring employers and cool companies onto campus so students get to meet with them. This is just some examples of some of the companies we work with to help students get connected to employers and start thinking about their creative career. So, one of the great things is we deal with employers who are local in our area, but also all over the US and some that are even international. So if your dream is to be a photographer, to be a automotive designer, these are the kinds of companies that you can interact with, on a almost semesterly basis. We also take students on trips. We go to Chicago, we go to visit companies. So here's just some photos from some recent trips that we did. We visited an animation studio in Chicago, and we visited NASA Glenn Center, which is really close to Cleveland, where the Cleveland Institute of Art is. Also, before we dive into these career options, I really want to stress the importance of internships. An internship is an opportunity to test drive your future career. So, this is your opportunity to see if what you're thinking you want to do is actually what you want to do. When I was a college student, I thought that I wanted to work for a television station. I loved TV. I loved the creativity of television. I thought that TV was going to be for me. So I did an internship. I did an internship with VH1. And through that internship, I found, wow, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do. But I would have never known that unless I had experienced it. So I really do encourage students, especially if you're thinking about a field that you've loved for your whole life, test it out, see what it's like in the work environment. So definitely you want to be thinking about internships. A benefit of internships is that a lot of times they can convert into full-time jobs after graduation. It's never promised, it's never 100% guarantee, but I found that a lot of students at CIA, their first job after college is typically with their company they did their internship with. So that's another great reason to do internships, to network and to really get some exposure to your field, but you never know where it can lead. All right, so now we're diving in. This is what you're here for, careers in the arts. So a lot of times when I meet with students and their families, they want to know what their options are. Maybe they know of a few creative things. They've, watched some television shows where they saw that the lead character was an architect or a graphic designer, or maybe someone in their family has been an industrial designer, and so they know a little bit. But we're going to go through a ton of options today. One thing that I hear again and again is that, sometimes people are skeptical. They're like, are there really jobs in the arts? And I'm here to tell you, yes, there are absolutely jobs in the arts. If you look around your home right now, you're going to see things that were designed or created by an artist or designer. And, those are things you paid for, right? Whether it's your cup that you're drinking your coffee out of, or your laptop that you're watching this presentation on. All of these things have been designed or created by artists or designers. And lastly, a thing that I hear all the time is, but won't I be a starving artist? Why is that a phrase? Because it must have some truth to it, right? No. There are so many ways to think about your career and the ways that you generate income that we do not want starving artists. We no starving artist here. We want you to be aware of the job opportunities and things in your field so you can be prepared and seek out those opportunities. All right, so I'm going to go through the 15 different majors that CIA has and talk to you about careers in these areas. So I did them alphabetically just to be fair because no one major is better than the other, but we're going to just dive into them. So a lot of folks in the past 10, 15 years have been interested in animation as a profession. When you think of animation, a lot of times, you think about the major studios, right? Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Pixar. Animation is so much more than that. There are so many different kinds of jobs within this field. So a lot of times when I'm talking to students about animation, I will point out to them that they could be an animator who works for a greeting card company. They could be an animator that works for a museum and does interactive museum designs. They could be an animator that works for NASA. There are so many places that animators can work outside of the traditional studios. Traditional studios are wonderful, and if that's where you want to go, that's your goal. But there are so many different opportunities in animation. 3D animation really focuses on, a little bit more the complexities of design and character rigging. It's, definitely something that folks will specialize in if they want to. 2D animation, we're looking at more flat surfaces. That's another specialization area. We have students who want to become character artists and work on the next great characters for their favorite beloved TV shows or movies, really focusing in on the facial expressions and acting with the characters through their drawing. We have visual effects artists who can do almost anything. Visual effects can be, creating that big explosion when the cars crash in the animated film, or it can be doing, props and different things that are part of the animation. Our storyboard artists are folks who really do help to guide the direction of the animation by drawing out the different camera lens scenes for each shot that's going to be in the animation. I said camera because we talk about animation sometimes cinematography, although it's you sketching that shot. It's not actually using a camera, but that is a very common thing that I hear animation folks frame that in. We have animators who are texture artists. We had an alum come and speak at campus a few years ago, and he designed the textures on Spider-Man's suit in a video game. How cool is that? So, there are folks who just focus on texture, hair, fur, things like that. And then also motion graphics designer. We had a student recently who did an internship with the NHL hockey team, and that student did motion graphics that would be shown on the Jumbotron and used on their social media. So lots of cool careers in animation. Next is ceramics. So ceramics is one of our 3 craft majors. So when I talk about craft, craft traditionally are these artisan, handmade, really labor intensive products. So we have ceramics, jewelry and metals, and also glass. So for ceramics, we have artist studio assistant as a career pathway. We have art instructor, so teaching, taking your passion and teaching it to others. Entrepreneur. Some of our ceramics majors will go out and start their own ceramic studios or sell their work. We have studio artist, so someone who works in their studio. They are producing work, that is their full-time job. They're selling maybe with galleries. They are completely dedicated to their craft. Surprisingly, this one shocks a lot of folks, is that ceramics majors can work for automotive. So when a car design first starts, one of the foundational pieces that they do after sketching is taking that and making a clay model. And so that is a career option for ceramics majors, is to build these ginormous life-size clay models of cars for companies like GM. Karen, I need to go grab some water. Could you maybe answer some questions about portfolios while I just grab water? Thank
Sure,
you.
no problem. Yes, I know how it is.
Awesome.
Sometimes when you're giving a presentation, your throat gets a little dry. But so yeah, so if anybody has any questions right now, you could share them with me. But I think so far Heather's doing a great job at explaining all the different careers we have after you attend our school in the art and design areas. We have 15 different majors in the art and design industry, and she's covering all of those as she talks about these different sections. So I think it's great, whether you're interested in fine arts, if you're interested in the design area, there's going to be an area that you'll be able to get an internship with. Company reps, visiting artists come visit the school. That'll also give you some additional insight about what direction you can go into. And they really talk about their careers, their information, so you could get that direct contact one-on-one with them. So
Awesome.
are you ready to pick it back up?
I am. Thank you so much, Karen. All right. So thank you for bearing with us on our short break. The next major at CIA is drawing. And so drawing is really interesting because a lot of students will ask me, like, what's the difference between drawing and illustration? Illustration is more focused on commercial artwork, where drawing is more focused on fine art. So some of these are going to sound a little similar to the craft career options, but folks who do drawing, they can work as a studio assistant or as an artist with their own studio practice. Sometimes they might go into art sales. We learn it as part of the education at CIA a lot about art history, and that art history knowledge can be extremely helpful working in a gallery or doing sales. Sometimes folks who major in drawing will go into collection management, so maybe working at a gallery or a museum, managing things behind the scenes. Some of our drawing majors go on to become entrepreneurs, selling their own work, creating their own small businesses, and working with clients to create commissioned pieces. So we also have students who might go into arts administration. And arts administration is a huge career field where it's basically doing behind the scenes work at galleries or museums. So that could be anything from doing fundraising, helping them, raise money to do a new project, art education, working and community engagement, working with the public. So lots of different things within arts administration, and drawing is one of the ways that you can get to that career goal. All right. Next is game design. So video game design has become extremely popular. And there's a lot of reasons why. With our mobile phones, a lot of us play games very consistently. And some of us use game consoles or other computer gaming. So some of the careers can be an augmented reality or a virtual reality artist. And this is so interesting right now. With headsets where you can be in virtual reality, or with your phone where you might be playing games with augmented reality. There's just so much area for growth within AR and VR right now. So you may not know this, because I know I didn't when I was just starting out, but there are actually people who design the levels. And so they think through the challenges and the obstacles and how the game will play out. And so that's called a level designer. And that's a really interesting job. Game artist. So sometimes, we might see that as a generic description for someone who creates art and assets for video games. UI designer. That's the user interface. So that's where, thinking about where the person playing the game will intuitively understand gameplay through, menus, maps, and design and layout of elements on a game screen. So, you think about your health bar, when your character gets hit, the health bar goes down. When the character gets a potion, the health bar goes up. The UI designer thought of how to show that and how you could visually understand what was happening. Visual effects artist, as we saw, animation has this career as well. There are some animated functions in video games, those paused screens where you're no longer playing and you're watching a scene unfold. So, a VFX artist could be designing those. And lastly, an environment artist. So video games are their own worlds, right? So having someone design the background and all of the different things like the trees and the houses and the things that go into the background. So there's an artist who does just that. Glass, our glass major at CIA is really exceptional. It has a very high placement rate because glass is something that has become extremely popular. It's almost experiencing like a rebirth. People are very interested in glass and want to learn how to make glass objects. And so glassblowers are training members of the general public on how to make things out of glass. It's kind of cool. I always love an appreciation of a form of art. So our glass majors, they can become glassblowers, right? They can work for corporations. There's a huge glassblowing community out in Seattle. There's also one on the East Coast too. And so there's tons of companies that hire our alumni to come and work for them and make fine art glass pieces. One of the places where you might not have guessed hires glassblowers is actually cruise lines. So, if you want to travel the world and teach people how to make glass, that job is out there. That job exists. So that's kind of cool. Similar to our other craft major ceramics, as I was sharing with you before, folks can become a studio assistant or an artist, an art instructor, teaching, glass arts to others, an entrepreneur, starting their own business, selling their glasswork, a studio artist, creating glass, showing that work in galleries, or an administrator in arts management. So that is something to think about as well too. Arts management will appear for a lot of our fine art and craft majors. Graphic design. So really, this is kind of a cool field. I like to talk about graphic design to people who are having a tough time making a decision on what they want to do. As a graphic designer, you can work for literally any company. So think about this, right? If you love animals and you also love design, you can be a graphic designer for the Humane Society. You love trucks and cars. You could be a graphic designer for GM, designing their website, designing their app, designing the signs hanging in their automotive sales, functions. So, graphic design, you can literally work almost anywhere. So that's kind of cool. I like that about graphic design. It's very versatile. Almost every industry hires graphic designers. Graphic designers can work in-house. They can be a graphic designer working for a company and having that as a full-time job. They may also be freelance, where they get hired for short-term projects, and they kind of get to pick and choose who they want to work with. So that's kind of interesting. There's also packaging design. So creating the next, great water bottle package, that could be, part of what you do. Website design, making user-friendly websites that are really engaging to the user. UX design, user experience design. That's thinking holistically about the layout of apps, of websites, and how they are benefiting the user. And lastly, creative director. So usually after someone has worked in the field of graphic design for a few years, they move up to this leadership role of creative director, where they start setting the stage of the design direction for the organization, which is really exciting to get to have that kind of creative control. Super, super fun. Illustration. So as I was sharing with you a little bit before, right? Illustration and drawing, there is a difference too. Illustration is more focused on commercial art. So that is art that folks are consuming through commercial reasons. So greeting cards or, textile design, things like that. So we have many students love to major in illustration. There's a lot of emphasis on character design and storytelling, which is super fun. So Some of these career paths could be freelance illustrator. So that, you know, I was just talking to an alum today. That alum had just finished working on a comic book with some writers and is now going to work on another freelance project starting in January with a teacher. So, you know, having a variety of different clients and different places where you are earning income from. Some illustrators will become entrepreneurs. They will start their own businesses. We have an alum who just opened up her own brick and mortar store in Little Italy, and she's selling things, creative things, cute designs that she's worked on. Greeting card designer. American Greetings is in Cleveland, and so a lot of our students, as you saw in that video, go towards there for internships and jobs. Graphic designer. Some of our illustration students will also take graphic design classes so that they can be even more versatile and have more skills to offer employers. So that's a career path option. Comic book artist. We have folks who really do care about comic books and graphic novels. Children's books, that is a really popular one. And while you're a student, you might even have the opportunity to do freelance work to start working on children's books even while you're still in school, which is kind of cool that some of our students do that. Textile designer, you know, we've had students work at Abercrombie and Finch, and, you know, definitely we have, we share jobs from, you know, Kohl's and different places that hire textile illustrators. So that is something that is an option. And art instructor. So, you know, if you love, you know, working with younger folks or even adults, and you want to teach illustration, you know, you could work for an organization like in Cleveland, the Center for Arts Inspired Learning, which many of our alums do work for, and help teach, you know, folks on weekends and different times and after school how to illustrate. It's kind of cool. All right, so our next major that I'm going to share some career paths on is industrial design. So industrial design at CIA, you can either major in industrial design, more focused on products, or industrial design focused on transportation, automotive. And that could be cars, boats, helicopters, you name it, right? So for industrial design, if you're focusing on product, you could be a toy designer. You could design consumer home products like blenders or washing machines. You could do housewares designs. You could do sports equipment. We have some alums who are at Dick's Sporting Goods and do like really cool golf equipment. I'm not a golfer, but you know, medical equipment, furniture design, UX design also is part of this as well. So these are sort of some options if you want to focus on product. And the reason why the user experience comes into product too is a lot of the times now that equipment is smart, like smart refrigerators, smart, you know, I mean smartphones, but you know, a lot of equipment is smart. And so it has a complex set of buttons and procedures. And so UX designers for product really help to simplify that. But we have folks who also want to do transportation design, and that major is wonderful. They do interactive projects with the large automotive industry partners who come in from Detroit and drive to Cleveland and spend time on the weekends working with our students. So really cool hands-on experiences in these majors. You know, so here again, you can do UX research for automotive. You could be a color, material, and finish designer, really focusing in on thinking about using your knowledge of color theory to designing the interior of the automobile. Sometimes folks who go and do that as a career maybe studied fashion or they studied transportation design, but it's really interesting because you're thinking about color and how it works within a space. So it's kind of neat. Surface designer, automotive exterior, interior, and then also a designer of, again, I mentioned, you know, it could be bikes, motorcycles, watercraft, helicopters, you name it. So lots of different options for that major. So CIA has a BFA in interior architecture. And this is such a neat major. You got to see some of the student artwork from the video that we showed. And so interior architects, they're really thinking about, you know, how to use the space, how to design the space for the user, really cool stuff. So you could focus on designing retail spaces. You could design the next great hotel. You could design the next fabulous restaurant. We even have students who've gone into themed entertainment and experience design. So we've had students do internships at Universal Studios, the theme park, designing, hospitality and themed entertainment there. So really interesting that that could be a pathway. Designing the workplace of the future. That's kind of an interesting thought right now. Designing medical hospitals and the future of that. And designing educational spaces like colleges, universities, K through 12. There's also a career path from here called environmental designer, which is designing wayfinding or signage within an area. So still thinking about the space, but designing things that go into the space that help the users navigate it. Our next major is jewelry and metals. And so this is another craft major. And so folks who major in this, they might become a jewelry designer or an entrepreneur. We have so many alums who have opened up their own jewelry studios after they've gone through this program. Sometimes an artist will become a studio assistant working for a jeweler or a jewelry artist or a metals artist. They might become an instructor and teach classes. Like we have some great continuing education classes at CIA that folks from the public take. Maybe they'll become a studio artist and work inside a studio. And then lastly, again, arts management positions is something that folks from this major might go into. So, again, working behind the scenes at a museum or gallery. Life sciences illustration is such an awesome major at CIA. It's so unique. It's just so unique. I love talking to the students who are in this major because they are just so excited. They get to do things like observe surgeries at the local hospitals and sketch what they're seeing. And I remember the first time I talked to a student who had done that, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to see a knee replacement surgery. How cool." And I was like, not for me. I would not like that, but I am very afraid of blood. But for her, it was awesome. So if you're in that category where you would find watching and sketching a knee replacement surgery awesome, this could be the major for you. Life sciences illustration majors work with doctors, work with scientists, and help to illustrate different components of both human illness. Also, they study animals, they study fish, they study plants. There's a lot of different scientific things that our students get to study with this. So if you major in this, you might go on to be a 3D medical animator. A huge area that hires 3D medical animators is actually the legal field. And so 3D medical animators might recreate a scene or scenario where a surgery took place and maybe there was an accident. And so in a medical malpractice case, they might present that as evidence. Textbook illustrator, freelancer, doing this work again with a wide variety of clients, different projects, at different times. Augmented reality and virtual reality, really a cool thing. So that's something to consider. Data visualization, designer at a health ad agency, or working at a museum, botanical garden, or aquarium's creative team. And I just saw a question that popped in, and I'm going to take a moment here to read that. I'm sorry if your question had been there for a while, and the question was, what type of work fits within the art and design industry? I'm creative in general with a natural ability to draw. I believe I would like to approach this by identifying the best options to find employment. Okay, so I hope that so far we are answering this question, but if not, please chime in. And Karen, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, so I've been chatting with her right now, and so I've answered a couple of questions. If you're undecided about what the best option is for you, Heather did mention graphic design, and you want to stay local. They want to stay local. So if you're interested in staying local, graphic design is one of those fields that every company, or maybe not every, but most companies are hiring graphic designers. And also, like Heather said, it gives you that flexibility. So if you're interested in working for the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo, to more of an industrial design type company, to maybe working at CIA or MOCA in Cleveland, it's going to give you that flexibility to have your interests, but be able to do that graphic design for that different company. Also, I mentioned industrial design. We are definitely an industrial design environment here in Cleveland. Moen is local in Cleveland, and they hire some of our industrial designers. I think Heather could probably give you many more lists of that. But if you have a drawing ability, really going into any of our majors, that the great thing about CIA is you start the first year in the foundation year. So if you have that drawing ability, that can take you in many different directions. That first year, you're going to draw, you're going to do digital work, you're going to be exposed to 2D design, 3D design, and exposed to all the different majors here. So the faculty will work with you as well as Heather to find that good fit, to see where your strengths of your skill sets lie, and then point you in that direction. So for now, we're saying, graphic design is great overall, but for you, maybe you want to go into teaching, or maybe you want to be a studio artist and be an entrepreneur, and you're going to be able to do that. Or maybe you're interested in going in jewelry or metals, and we have alums that work in the city doing jewelry design. However, a lot of them will maybe go to New York City and work under a major jewelry designer to help establish themselves in their work, or get that additional work there in the city. So it's really twofold. It depends what your strengths are, what you major in. Those internships are just essential. Those are going to help you get your foot in the door, help you realize what you want to do, or maybe what you don't want to do. Definitely staying in Cleveland is an option. And if you're a local student, there's plenty of options in Cleveland. I think we mentioned a lot of out of state or kind of national, because we do have students that will come in from different locations. So if you're a local student, there's plenty of options. So I'm talking a lot. I don't know if Heather, if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's perfect. Absolutely. Cleveland is a great city for art and design, whether it be industrial design, graphic design, life sciences illustration. It really truly is a great city for art and design. And our students tend to mostly do during the fall and spring semester when they're currently in class, they mostly do local internships. So we have a lot of within the Cleveland area, within the Akron area, within like the city of Solon, there are just so many opportunities that are just kind of bubbling up. So awesome question. And thank you, Karen, for answering those questions. And if there's one where you want to feed it to me, please just interrupt. All right. So moving forward, we're getting close to the end of our alphabet. Painting. So similar to drawing, painting, you'll have options for artist studio assistant, art sales, collections management, entrepreneurship, selling your paintings, working with galleries, doing your own independent sales, being a studio artist, doing freelance work with your paintings, maybe a freelance muralist, working with clients to create murals both internally and externally on their buildings. Arts administration is still an option here, arts management, and then mural artist, I just said that before too. One of the really cool things that at CIA for our painting, drawing, printmaking, and our craft majors, we have an internship program called Creativity Works that teaches students about arts entrepreneurship. And so that's a really unique thing to CIA, but it's fantastic to get that experience to work with clients and sell your art while you're still a student, so that when you graduate, you feel so comfortable and confident doing that. Photography and video and digital cinema. So this is awesome because photography is another one of those jobs that, a lot of companies hire for. We have alumni who are photographers for large companies that do e-commerce. So, that sell on websites, and they need the images of the items they sell photographed. We have students who are working for photography studios. We have folks, alumni, they're not students anymore. We have folks who are also freelancers, working with a wide variety of clients. It's really a diverse amount of clients that you can have for photography. Real estate clients, all types. It's really awesome. Photo editing can be part of your job if you want to, if you really like that editing piece, there are opportunities to just do editing. Some of the larger like news stations might hire folks to do that kind of work, just only photo editing. Social media manager. So much of social media is communicated through photography, so it's kind of natural that some of our students and alumni have gone into those roles. E-commerce photographer. So I mean, again, we're a large company helping to photograph their products and help put that online. Fine art photographer. So again, this might be that your prints are shown in a gallery or you're selling them through different shows. That is an option as well. Arts management. Again, you'll notice that a lot of our arts majors can go into that field. Or art instructor. We have a lot of requests for folks who look for like photography tutors or photography instructors. So lots of opportunities there. If you are focused on digital cinema or video, your job opportunities can be similar. Sometimes even if you have that strong photography base, you might be able to do any of the jobs in that first category column. But also for video, video editing, video production, motion graphics artist, videographer, and multimedia artist are some of our careers paths that our folks in digital cinema and video take on. There's also printmaking at CIA. Printmaking is so awesome, has amazing resources in the printmaking studio. And if you do want to major in printmaking, some of the career paths for you could be artist or a studio assistant, working in art sales, collections management. You could be an entrepreneur selling your prints. You could get involved at, with selling your work. You never know, again, too, if that's going to be something that you're going to maybe do with a gallery or maybe pop-up shops, or you find different places where you can sell that work locally. Studio artist, working in the studio, is that is your full-time job. Arts management administrator. We had a few of our printmaking majors recently go and work for this really cool nonprofit called the Morgan. They are a nonprofit that focuses on paper making, so it kind of makes sense, right? Printmakers will print on paper. So our students had done this really cool summer internship with the Morgan doing paper making. And lastly, artist, again, just studio artist, making that your full-time job. For sculpture, our sculpture major at CIA, here are some of the career paths. They're going to sound a little similar to printmaking and some of the ones we said before, but that's because these career paths can cross over. So artist or studio assistant, an entrepreneur, a sculptor, or studio artist, a fabricator. So we have a lot of alums who work in like woodworking or other ways where they're using their hands and they're making, kind of cool. One of our alums even started his own studio in Chicago that we got to visit on a recent trip there. Really nice. Fiber artist, so someone who makes art using textiles and fiber. Digital artist, okay. Installation artist, arts management administrator. And so with about 2 minutes left, we have Karen, if you want to come on and we have any questions, this is the time.
So I was just asking the student that asked us the question, let's see if she answered. Okay, so I wanted to connect you with your counselor here at the school. So the area where you're at, I believe that's going to be Bennett Overmeyer. I'm going to type in her email. You'll want to go to our website. We're at cia.edu. It'll give you the areas of your counselors if you have more questions, and or just email our school in general, and we'll get more questions answered and connect you with your specific counselor, especially if you're interested in a portfolio review. So portfolio is required if you're applying to our school, 12 to 20 images total. And we used to have a requirement of at least 4 drawings. That's no longer a requirement. Again, it's just 12 to 20 of your best pieces. But if you are interested in drawing and that is your strength, by all means, include that. If it's not a strength, but you still have some of those sketchbook pieces, maybe you've done some sketches of still lifes, figure drawings, just in a sketchbook, you can include that sketchbook work too. It's good to show us a little bit of variety within your work. So if you're mainly just interested in all photography, that's great. But show us maybe if you have some video work and or again some of that drawing work as well, just to break it up a little bit and show us some diversity in your skill sets. So I'm just gonna type in Bennett's information here. It'll just take me a second. Does anybody else have any questions?
And I think we're probably right at time. Is that correct, Victoria?
We are right at 45 minutes. That was a wonderful explanation of the majors and the programs that you have. Thank you for being willing to have two of you so you can answer some questions and communicate back and forth with the students. I do want you to know that the presentation is going to be available online because it has been recorded. And because of that, you will be able to see it within a week. And when you go to OACAC, my slide, there it is, oacac.org, you'll be able to go back and review that and look at other schools whose sessions have been recorded, as well as more schools that have upcoming sessions. When I end this, there's a brief 4-question survey that will better help us understand how to bring you information about colleges. But I do want to thank Heather and Karen for a great session on CIA. It's a wonderful school. I do think that if you're interested in something in arts and design, that you do need to look into them. I wish you a good evening. I thank you for your time, and I hope you all are well. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.